Hello and welcome to the 4-0 Up podcast. And today we have a very, very special episode.
We do.
We are joined with a very special guest, Sky Sports reporter, but most importantly, UCFB lecturer, James Cooper. James,
Hello,
welcome to the podcast.
It's been a long time in coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Been pestering. We all have been pestering James for the past couple of weeks. We struck a deal with him and everything to get him on the podcast, but we're here now, and we're delighted
the
to have
boys
you.
done good. That's the main thing. They came up with the goods last week, so that's why I'm here now.
Yeah. We read through awards and
Delivered.
James, you are a Sky Sports reporter, and this is a football podcast, so it's massive to have you. But we're not going to get away from the 4-0 podcast traditions and regimes. So we're going to whip out the football quiz, and James is going to test his knowledge. So he works for Sky Sports, and he is involved with football and has been involved with football for his entire life. And he'll tell us more about that. So we would think that he should have a pretty good football knowledge as well.
Expecting big things.
The pressure is on now.
The pressure is on. We're going to test you. And James has already assigned us some colours, so usually we do it based off what we're wearing, but we're not going to do it today. And James, you're going to start us off. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question on world stage, okay? So you're green.
Okay.
So this is
this
world
hard
stage.
or is this easy?
Oh, it varies. It varies a lot.
You could get a really easy question or you could get a really hard question, okay? So it's double-sided, so me and Mason.
No, don't worry. I'm not doing the thing where I'm looking through your hand. Don't worry.
So it's double-sided, so we will give you... So there's a choice of two questions here, so we'll pick which one we're going to give you.
Great.
Yeah, a lot of the questions are really hard.
That's a good
It's high budget as well. It's beautifully packaged as well.
Oh, yeah, perfect, yeah. It's a mess when we
Whose
usually
Christmas
get
gift was it?
Only the best. My girlfriend told me to get this in Tesco one day, so it was her idea.
Yeah.
And she's still your girlfriend?
Yeah.
How they're looking at the hard.
They're both very similar eras.
Oh.
God, I hope they're my era.
This one, okay, right.
It's more
Okay.
football-based.
James Cooper, world stage. Question is, which country scored the first ever golden goal in FIFA World Cup history? And if you can tell me who scored it, you get an extra point.
I haven't got a clue. I'd say France just because they would have been at the tail end of the competition. But
Do you want to guess at a score?
Trezeguet.
You've got 1 point. You got France.
Oh, nice.
But it was Laurent Blanc.
That wasn't
scored the
bad.
goal.
So it was the right era, wasn't it?
It was
Absolutely.
Laurent
Yeah,
Blanc
yeah.
that got the goal.
Go on, Larry White.
The first ever golden goal. Golden goal doesn't exist
Larry.
anymore, does it?
No.
I always remember when he came to Manchester United, had a wonderful cardigan on his first day at United.
Did he?
Beautiful. Yeah.
James just slipping a little bit in there already about who he knows.
No,
and what he's
you think about some of the states that people were in when they signed for Manchester United. You think Rooney with his sweater over and watch Coronation Street, or Ronaldo with that awful top when he arrived from Sporting Lisbon. A cardigan wasn't a bad thing.
Right. Mason, I'm going to give it to Mason. Actually, you can ask my question. I'm blue.
Yeah, he's blue.
Yeah.
General knowledge.
Random one.
This one's very weird one.
Yeah, this can really vary between really easy or really hard.
I'm just pleased I got 1 point.
Yeah. I think that might be the only question in the quiz that ever had a possibility of 2 points.
Oh, there we
So
are.
you
You'd
exactly.
overtaken
Yeah.
all of us with that.
So we'll go with this one. Which club did Jaap Stam become the manager of in June 2016?
Ooh.
Oh, I thought you'd know this. Oh.
I don't know.
Oh.
It's either you know it or you don't, I think.
I think it's
What's the thought process?
I'm thinking PSV. To be honest, PSV's jumping out at me. I don't think Ajax. Not in 2016. I think Ajax at that point would have been. Well, it could be Ajax, couldn't it? I don't know who he would have played for before he came to Manchester United, which is hurting me.
I couldn't help you anyway.
Oh.
I don't think it's a Dutch team, is it?
It's not.
Yeah,
It's not a
we'll
Dutch
help
team.
you there,
Ooh.
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, it's not a Dutch team. I thought a German team, but no, I don't think it's a German
We'll give you
team.
no more
Just
hints
throw
now.
one out there.
No more
Right,
hints.
Throw a club out there.
Throw a random club out there. I'm gonna go. I have to think of a non-Dutch team. It's just Dutch teams are flying through my head right now. I'll go for Blackburn Rovers.
Not bad.
Did you think you know it?
I think it's Reading.
It is
Yeah.
Reading.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
There we go.
Unfortunately, you don't get any points. That James.
No,
But you
Thanks
just
for
got to
telling me the
show
answer,
off.
Mason,
You just got
earlier.
to show
Thank you.
off to the
You're
viewers.
right to show off.
Tipping
Yeah.
the wink on that one. Absolutely
You
brilliant.
know, so. I give them a
Yeah,
little
Blackburn wasn't a bad shout to be fair, as soon as you had
Yeah,
no
because
idea.
I thought to myself, I was like,
Same colour scheme
Yeah,
as
it was
Reading as
almost
well.
very
Yeah.
close.
I just thought to myself, I was like Blackpool and Blackburn in my head, and I was like, no, Blackpool at that. No,
But
You're
Jaap
not,
Stam
you're
at
not getting
Blackpool.
Jaap Stam to Blackpool, are you?
No, imagine.
exactly.
Him on the
yeah.
pleasure beach would be a bit weird.
Oh, we already had that question.
Good guy, though. Really good guy.
Is he?
Really
Yeah.
decent human being. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good, Jap. If you're watching, you've got
He'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that past question, but James Lovey. Right.
And if you haven't seen the thing of him having his head stitched at the World Cup, look out for that online, because he got an injury on the I forgot which World Cup it was, but playing for Holland, obviously. Big head injury just above his eye, went off the pitch and had it sewn up on the side of the pitch. So not going into a room and having anaesthetic or anything like that. proper hard man stuff. So have a look for that, because that is a brilliant piece of footage.
Wow, that sounds grim. That just sounds grim.
I'll tell you what, this is Premier League, and these always are usually the easiest questions because we all watch Premier
But
League.
it's always
football.
hard when it's me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this isn't necessarely hard, but both questions are really.
Is it
good.
like you either know it or you don't? It's like one of
No,
those things that
I
you
think
might
this is
know.
one that you could eventually, if you used your head a little bit, you could work this one out.
So Mason's screwed.
Both of them are really good questions, but I'm going to go with this one. Which player holds the record for the most consecutive Premier League seasons reaching double figures in goals?
Ooh.
Just think about it, because I don't think it's that hard. I think what the answer when you
I
hear
think,
it.
would it be Wayne Rooney?
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Wayne
well
Rooney.
worked.
11 seasons
Fair
in a row
play.
he reached double figures.
Fair play.
Yeah,
that
well
is
done.
really
hero.
impressive.
I think
My favourite footballer ever, actually.
It jumped out quite quick, but I think when you do think about it, it's quite obvious.
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
not many players that have had the longevity he did.
Yeah,
I
true.
want
Rise
to
level.
ask the other one. It said, which club holds the record for the longest unbeaten home run in the Premier League with 86 games? Anyone know what it is?
I want to say probably, surely it's Liverpool, but
No, because it's Premier League. So,
Premier. Oh.
so yeah, rather than, because I'd have gone with you
So
prior
what,
to Premier League.
87 Premier League games?
86 Premier League games
That's
at home.
that's across like 5
home
seasons.
in a row.
It's got a bit.
It's across a span of 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd go Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
yeah.
And probably
Chelsea.
the Mourinho era.
Yeah, 2004, 2008, yeah.
So Mourinho Mark
Yeah,
one.
fair play.
Yeah.
Getting shown off here.
So well done, you got
everything.
basically
No,
every single question right.
I'm just glad I did all my homework before I came in,
Yeah, James spent our entire lecture revising.
pulling out all those questions and trying to work out.
He
And
stole the book from my
I thought
bag.
if I did Laurent Blanc from the start, you'd have rumbled me. So gave me the Trezeguet treatment.
Right.
Oh, I hate throw about football. It's
Yeah,
so...
this one is
This is
usually
horrible.
the hardest.
Oh,
It's usually
God.
the hardest.
Right, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this shouldn't be. This isn't too bad.
Oh, God.
Which two international teams did Sir Matt Busby manage while he was Manchester United manager?
Oh. Scotland and, like, England? I don't know.
Scotland is correct, but the other one is Great Britain.
Well, I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it was Great Britain in
I'm not
1948. So it's tough. Yeah, so it was Great Britain in 1948 and Scotland in
I've just
1958.
realised we've had that question
Yeah,
before.
that question
Have we?
like 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. Yeah.
That's really bad for me because I'm the one who read it out as well. That's really bad for me.
Right, well, that was
God.
the quiz. James, would you have got that one?
that's really
No,
bad
I'd
for
have
me.
got the Scotland bit. I didn't know about Great Britain.
Yeah, well,
Great-
Great
Would that have been
Britain's
the
in-
Olympics or?
Might have been, yeah. It's an
You
odd
said
one. though.
1948, so that's post Second World War. So it
It
might,
might
yeah.
have been just a.
Great Britain, yeah, that's a bit weird.
That is an odd one, though. Yeah. But this entire episode is about you.
Oh,
And
God.
you-
I hope you've done your work, your preparation, all the things we talk about.
Yeah, and you alone. So the FIFPRO Awards were last night, but I'm not going to talk about them yet, but we will get on to that in a second. But you know what I'm about to mention. But you're a Sky Sports reporter, so tell me
I
about...
was a Sky Sports reporter.
You were a
I'm
Sky
not,
Sports
I'm not
reporter.
now. Made
You've
that very
leveled up and now
clear.
you're,
Yeah.
you're sitting on the Formula podcast that has 70 subscribers.
Hey, come on, 74.
Yeah, so how did you get into reporting initially?
I wanted to be an actor is what I wanted to do initially, and I wasn't good enough or lucky enough to be an actor. So I thought, blimey, I saw really good people that didn't get roles, and I saw really awful people who did get roles, depending on what party they went to and what people they met. So I thought, right, I've got to do something different. So I decided, right, journalism's for me, and I want to do it, maybe tell people what's happening, what's going on, all those sort of things, but there has to be kind of a performance aspect to
Yeah.
it. You know, when the red light goes on, whether it's radio or whether it's television, that's the sort of buzz that you get when you're on a stage, for example. But the difference being that generally when you're doing radio, and especially when you're doing television outside Old Trafford with a camera and just you've got no audience, you've got kind of no buzz to go to. All you've got is a cameraman looking at his watch thinking, when's this guy going to get his lines right? You know, so that was the journey. And I started in radio, did loads of work experience. I'm from Ipswich, so did work experience at the local independent radio and the BBC Radio Suffolk, and then just kept banging on people's door. Did my degree in Belfast, which is why we have kind of a shared space, if you like. 3 years there, then did my postgrad in London, then got a job in radio in Leeds, came back to radio in Manchester, worked for MUTV for a year in 1999 for the treble season, so kind of forged
What a
all my
year.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a
Not bad,
great time to get to know everybody. So my job then was speaking to Sir Alex on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, and all the players in the treble. And then
Nice talking to us.
and then on to Granada Television, and then 3 or 4 years there doing Granada Tonight, Granada Reports, we'll call it what you like, and then on to Sky for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you talk a little bit about the actors. Some good, didn't get any parts, and some bad. Is that a little bit more about it's not what you know, it's who you know?
I think it can be, and I think that was a lesson. I think throughout it, I think what's the industry's changing in such a way that I think a lot it's more what who you know rather than what you know. And I think there isn't this kind of meritocracy maybe that wasn't there, but equally, back then 20 years ago when people were looking to get to be journalists or get to be actors, the pool was very small as well. It was generally white blokes.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 white blokes around a table, so maybe not as much changed. But but we're talking
We
about
got cast for this.
But they came from sort of backgrounds of public school and those sort of things, and I think that's all changing. There is a meritocracy, but I think people are getting opportunities, and I think people talk about opportunities in media being limited because there are less jobs. I think there are more opportunities. Who was doing things like this?
Yeah.
Even 5 years ago, and if you have a good story, if you have the contacts, and you know the things you need to go about it, you can get somewhere. I've got 2 sons who are similar ages to you guys. They watch YouTube all the time, but that's given your generation the idea that if you see it, why can't you do it?
Yeah, exactly.
None of that kind of existed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think what people then forget is there's still a lot of hard work involved in it.
Definitely. You mentioned you went to uni in Belfast. As we all know, everyone that listens to the Four Long Podcast knows I'm Northern Irish. Why on earth did you choose to go to Belfast?
Because
what human being makes that decision?
It's a really good question. I knew Northern Ireland anyway, so I knew it's something I liked. But I wanted to be a journalist, and I had no opinions. I couldn't find my socks without my mum and dad. It was like that bad. I was pathetic. I had no opinions, and I realised I had to go somewhere where I had opinions. So I thought it was really brave. All my friends went to Cambridge or Oxford or Bristol or York or all those sort of proper universities.
You were in a smart friend
universities. Group? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They don't show up about their friend who went to Belfast. So that happened. I went to Belfast thinking that politically, religiously, call it what you like, bearing in mind the state of play there, certainly back at the start of the 90s, that half the people there wouldn't mind me, half the people would hate me. And I was 50-50 I thought was okay. The first 6 weeks of my life were the most miserable of my life. 100% people hated me because I was English.
Yeah.
Really? 100%.
That's a thing. It's so like if an English person comes over to Northern Ireland, they're always looked at a little bit like
just a weirdo.
It's just because in Northern Ireland it's very small and there's not a lot of people, so it's like you're either Northern Irish or you're not. You're with us or you're against us.
Like wearing a hat saying "Don't talk to me."
Almost, yeah. Whereas if you're Irish and Northern Irish going over to England, they love you. It's like this instant buzz.
Oh, you've got this great voice and everything like that.
Yeah. Tell me about this and this. And I love Ireland. And then when they come over, I'm not saying I do this. Like I would have went to school with English people as well, but there is a stigma in Northern Ireland. If you're a little bit different, you just look down on.
So would that be
like small time mentality a little bit?
Would you say it's something that helped shape you later on?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it taught me a really important lesson that there are people who just hate. And that's using a kind of expression modern day. But if people don't like you, they won't like you. You can do everything sometimes in your power, but the people are just like that. Some people, that's. I taught that to my sons. You can be the nicest person in the world, but someone might still have a gripe against you. You've got to change that.
Yeah, you can't please everyone. Equally,
it taught me to stand on my own 2 feet. And the first 6 weeks, getting through that and not coming home, not throwing in the towel was probably character building.
Yeah.
But when someone on the rugby pitch is beating you up and the referee's not doing anything about it because he hears an English accent, or you get fouled playing football and it's play on because it's the English guy that's got kicked.
Yeah,
it starts to get a bit demoralising. It didn't carry on like that for 3 years. Don't worry, but you certainly learn. But you learn very quickly who your friends were and all those sort of things. So you're right. It kind of armoured you, which is probably the wrong expression, bearing in mind we're talking about paramilitaries at that time.
Yeah. I want to speak a little bit more about your time in Northern Ireland because obviously we've shared a couple
He's getting very biased about this.
No, not at all. I'm just interested because
you've got to make this a good listen for other people.
Yeah, but I think it will be because obviously I'm a Balmard fan. Your Northern Irish team is Larne, but you went to uni in Belfast, so you had the pick of Crusaders, Cliftonville, Linfield. Why Larne?
Well, partly because you named those awful teams already. Where's the choice in that?
Yeah.
No, the reality is, and it comes back to that first 6 weeks in Halls. I was next to a guy from Larne.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he was one of my best friends and still one of my best friends. And bearing in mind, Northern Ireland is such a small place. At weekends, everyone goes home. So not only were you just treated like an outcast for 5 days of the week, for the next 2 days you were either with the weird English people who'd also come to Belfast, or you were just on your own, waiting for being an outcast again on the Monday. Mm-hmm. So the first person to take me back to their house, meet their family, was my mate Andrew from Larne. So that was the connection at my hour of need, it was somebody that came to my need, if you like, and that was what it was all about. So that's where the link comes from, and I love the fact that everyone probably listening to this podcast doesn't even know where Larne is or what Larne is. Or maybe it's where the boat goes from Stranraer. People think it's a toilet of a place. I love it because it is like that. People look down their nose on it, and so I do all I can to make sure that people talk up about the place.
Yeah, no, and you did a little bit of work with Sky for Larne as well, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, that was the kind of payback. I said if I could get the cameras over, I would do, and then Larne were taken over by a guy who's become a friend of mine who started Purple Bricks, who was from a very poor part of a very poor town in Larne, made his fortune and has come back and sunk millions into the football club.
Yeah, now they're flying. Top of
absolutely.
the
8 games to go, 6 points clear, and who knows, fingers crossed, touching wood, it could be something really, really special.
It would be nice to see someone that wasn't Crusaders, Linfield, Cliftonville.
Not many people in Northern Ireland are saying that outside East Antrim, but yeah.
No, because of Larne getting the massive takeover and money being so different.
People are jealous. The big fish are jealous. It's a bit like a Manchester United syndrome, where suddenly the people across the road have got even more money.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But we'll move aside from Northern Ireland because trust me, I want to sit here all day. And,
very unexpected. That was good.
And talk about it. But so, what is it like working at Manchester United and being around that atmosphere every single day? Because that must be so surreal.
Yeah, I think it's a privileged position. Blimey, get my teeth in. Because it is just a special football club, and it's not my football club. My football club would be Ipswich Town. That's where I'm from, and no one asks questions about that. But it's like the English version of Larne in terms of people looking down their nose at it. But very similar to your team, Mason, in Leicester City, probably similar sort of size. You've gone on an upwards trajectory, and we're in football's toilet in League One. But United is like nowhere else. And I think it is the biggest club in the world in the sense that you have absolute triumph and disaster, and there is nothing in the middle. So there's really good news and there's really bad news, but nobody wants meh. So everything is extreme. So you're always dealing with headlines on a constant basis, and I'm fascinated by the fact that people always want to talk about Manchester United.
They're always in the headlines, aren't they? All the time.
No matter what happens at the club, it could be the smallest bit of news in one club, but it'd be the biggest bit of news because it happens at Manchester United.
And people, who follow other big clubs, get annoyed by that, but it's true. There's nothing like United. Whether it's social media up here, whether it's people tweeting, everything is at a different level to anyone else in the country.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of the people that you met in Man United. Do you have any special stories or any special interviews, or were there any moments where you're just like, wow,
just name drop?
Just name drop for us.
I don't think it's that, because I don't want to do that, and people think the guy's a dick. But I think it's very telling of a kind of generation, if you like, or spending a time as a generation there from the early 90s through to now. I probably don't have a week whereby someone doesn't ask me about Sir Alex Ferguson and dealing with him.
Yeah.
And I think, fantastic players all over the place, but I think he's the icon within it.
You think so?
And I think what's really interesting about Sir Alex Ferguson is I think there's an argument that he, at one stage, and maybe even now, but certainly when he was managing, was bigger than Manchester United. Now, if you put that to him, he would reject it and say there's no one bigger than Manchester United. But I think there's an argument that he was. I think he was, for a time, proper Hollywood, and he wouldn't like that expression either because of everything that comes with that. But I think an iconic person, and I think what was really interesting when Jose came, day one of Jose Mourinho in Manchester United, I'm bigger than Manchester United. No, well, you're not. Nothing's bigger. And if Sir Alex Ferguson isn't bigger, then neither are you. And get out of that hotel and understand how the city works. But that's a different gripe.
So I remember hearing a story about Sir Alex Ferguson that he just had Manchester on lockdown. Like he had connections with every nightclub and he knew everyone inside Manchester. Is that true?
I think it's a little bit like the person that catches a big fish, and over the years it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think there was certainly a network there, and the stories about players' parties with the likes of Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs being turfed out of parties and him knowing what was going on, and or players being called into his office and lying to him and him knowing it was lies. So there was a network, there was a framework there, and I think it was a very different kind of thing. This is before mobile phones. This is before the internet. And
like
all
Twitter,
that.
Instagram,
It's basically picking up your phone, your house phone, and telling what's going on. So actually, bizarrely, he managed to kind of know what was going on when there was less communication.
Yeah, is that why he was so good?
I think he was good because he cared. I think he knew what he was part of. I think he understood Manchester United. I think, and I think the one thing that people in the know say, so I'm going to look as though I'm saying I'm in the know, but I think, if you hear people talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, he wasn't afraid of innovation.
Yeah.
And he knew there were things that he didn't know, and that sounds like a really strange thing to say, but in life there are a lot of people who don't know what they don't know, and they don't care. And they want to be experts and everything. I mean, you look at the whole situation with Ed Woodward at Manchester United. And Ed Woodward is a person I like as a person. If we were to have a frank conversation, I'd say you'd still be at Manchester United, I think, if you had specialist people doing the specialist jobs, rather than people who weren't fit for doing the jobs that you wanted them to do. Yeah. He could have looked so much better by having people who were really good in and around him, and I think that's where he failed. Whereas Sir Alex, bring him on. You had Steve McLaren cutting his teeth as a coach. You had Brian Kidd, always really good people around him. Carlos Queiroz,
Rennie Mullenstein.
And then lower than that, you had really good coaches, but you had people trying out things, different ideas, different ways of training. I think he was one of the first coaches to look at how players' sleep impacted their lives and things like that. So I think he, forgetting any other player that's played for Manchester United, above and beyond, I think he's the most kind of impactful person, certainly on my life and career.
I think that was why Sir Alex Ferguson was so good for so long, because I remember Pep Guardiola saying something that was like, the Man City team that's playing now won't be the same Man City team in 5 years. You have to progress. You can't progress without change. I think that's why Sir Alex Ferguson was able to do it at the top level for 26
I think you're right,
years,
and I think they're both similar managers, by the way.
Yeah.
I would put them in a similar. I don't want to compare them because I think different eras. I think Pep's a genius, but I think in that way Sir Alex was a genius as well. Definitely. And what they both shared, and what good coaches do share, is that they can make players better. I think Sir Alex would accept that as his career went on, he was less hands-on, but then it's the power of delegation and making sure you've got the people around you to do the job as well.
Yes, like some people say Sir Alex Ferguson is the best manager of all time, but the moment say Pep is the best coach of all time.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And what was really fun, I was watching him the other day after the Carabao Cup final, and he came and did some post-match, and you're thinking, there's a guy in his 80s, and he gave one look, and I said to my wife, there it is again. Don't mess with that guy. You might think he's, a great grandfather and all the things he is now, but the horrible man is in there somewhere.
Oh, definitely.
So don't mess. No. And that was the other power of him. When you think of all the egos amongst the journalists that cover Manchester United, lots of big hitters. He could walk into a room and silence all those people, and you're just wondering whether he's going to point at you and start having a go at you, because that's not nice.
Yeah, for Ronaldo, after he won the Euro 2016, he sees Sir Alex Ferguson, and how old was Sir Alex then? How long was he out of the game? And Ronaldo goes up to him straight away and goes, "Boss," and he still does it even when he wasn't playing for United.
And I think there are very few managers that have that relationship in that respect as well.
Yeah, the level of respect.
And I think it's important to say at that stage that he also, Ronaldo, came up with a dream for Sir Alex. He wanted to have the world's best player playing for him at Manchester United, and that didn't happen until Ronaldo. And I think there was a real reciprocation of, thanks, you've done that for me, I've done that for you type thing. So I think their relationship's quite special.
Well, on the topic of Ronaldo and being the best player in the world, the FIFPRO Awards were last night. And
I should never have told you this story.
Yeah, and I thought this was a perfect segue. So you told us a little story in the lecture that you handed Ronaldo his first ever FIFPRO Award.
Yeah, it was the first time he was a world player of anything. So that stage, Gordon,
I've literally no words.
I know, you're very kind, but at that stage, Gordon Taylor was head of FIFPRO, as he was the PFA, and he asked us to come and film an interview with Ronaldo at the training ground, and it was a bit bizarre in a sense, because I thought he would be handing him the trophy.
Yeah,
bearing in mind, and he kind of deferred to me, and we did it, and it was like at the start of the interview, here you are, congratulations, World Player of the Year. And,
Christ.
How was Ronaldo back then? Because he was only about 22, wasn't he? He was still really young. And
he was young, but there was something about, blimey, everyone talks about the hard work and everything like that, but he was just a funny guy to be around. I liked him a lot. I mean, I know there'll be different people have different stories to tell about all sorts of people, but you can only take as you find. I love the fact that, I think I told you after the Porto game, he scored that marvellous goal in Portugal. Someone asked him about a message for the fans, and I think he said something along the lines of, "If you like football, you'll love me." Only someone like him with that self-belief can say it.
He's the only one that can actually say it.
And back it up.
And I also remember in that mix zone, he comes around with his trousers rolled up like +4s. And again, only him can do that with the flip-flops and stuff like that.
Makes it look good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into who's the GOAT and all those sort of things, but maybe because of all those things, I will always say Ronaldo, just because the way he plays, just gets me on the edge of my seat.
You've a little bit of a personal connection to him as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but don't big it up. We're not mates or anything like that. But he we've done a lot of interviews, and I was lucky to be there at a time when he was becoming the greatest player on the planet.
That's unreal.
Have you ever like conducted any interviews with Manchester United players that have just been so good to work with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Generally they are.
Even back then.
Yeah, but
less media training. So.
Yeah, I suppose there's less media training, but then the level of then is you're a young journalist trying to find your way as well. So you're probably more deferential and respectful than you are when you know the ropes a little bit.
Yeah,
I always think you give people your respect until they don't earn it.
Yeah,
and then everything changes. So I'll always go into a situation now where you're in somebody else's living room, for example, when you go to a football club or do an interview with somebody, and until they upset you, then you've really got to be playing the game with them. And that's why I tell you guys who wanted to be broadcasters and wanted to be interviewers and all those sort of things. But I like dealing with Ollie actually as a player and a manager.
Yeah, he seems lovely.
Really decent guy, very very intelligent, and certainly in that '99 team, probably the most intelligent of all the players there.
Oh really?
Yeah, properly.
In what sort of sense? In a footballing sense, or just
generally? I mean, I think it's interesting when you hear managers talking about coaching teams. They get frustrated with British players, and that's all I'll say. That they like dealing with European players, and that's a massive sweeping generalisation. But I think Ollie was a really really dedicated, intelligent guy, and I was slightly upset with what happened to him as a manager because. I think if you're tough on players, then sooner or later they will rebel and want you to be softer with them.
Goes back to your respect thing.
Yeah, and if you're too soft with players, likewise they will rebel and take advantage. And I think when you look at the start of his time at Manchester United, everyone got the blazers back on, the ties back on. It looked like Manchester United, and I think he just gave a little bit too much trust to them. And in the end, that will come and kick you in the face.
Yeah,
and,
with
and
the
it
leaks
did.
and stuff, and then within the dressing room, there was. I think at that time at Manchester United, were there any leaders in that dressing room?
No,
there was no one to look to.
And then that comes down to reflecting on the manager and recruitment. I'm afraid it does.
The recruitment during that period was awful.
You have to pay the price.
Ollie's first summer, or even Ollie's first couple of summers, he got like a Gallo and Dan James in one window, and Harry Maguire and Donny van de Beek in another.
And they'd struggle to make your five-a-side team.
That's what I mean. The recruitment at that time at Manchester United specifically was really
so
bad.
So that undid it as well. But he was fun to deal with. But of all the managers, they were all fun in their own box office way. Louis was I love Louis as a bloke. Jose I didn't like as a person, as I've said to you before, but. What you see is what you get with Jose Mourinho.
Is that maybe why he's a little bit Marmite, where you love that in a human being because it's Jose Mourinho?
But he's not hiding from who he is, and there are a lot of coaches who are guilty of being something they're not.
A little bit off camera,
there's a public face and there's a private face, and he doesn't care. And I think I remember seeing him for the first time in Portugal, in Porto, when United played in the quarter-final and went out to goal scored, and the goal was disallowed for offside, wasn't it, at Old Trafford? But before that, and he slid down on his knees. But the home leg, going to see him at this big amphitheatre in Porto doing his press conference. We were late, and he did it in sort of 3 or 4 different languages, and this was young Jose prior to coming to Chelsea, and he was one of the most incredible people I'd ever seen. It was like a dictator or something, and just before he left United, I told him about that, and he couldn't believe that I remembered it or was there, and B, I don't think he could believe I was actually complimenting him, but but I did love the fact that he doesn't care what people think of him. He just gets on with being who he is,
I think Louis van Gaal, I want to go back to that because I think Louis van Gaal is a really intriguing person, and he's seen so much. He's been at Barcelona, he's been with the Netherlands, he was at Bayern Munich as well, and Manchester United. So he must have seen so much. What's he like?
I liked him an awful lot. He was very indiscreet is the wrong word because that makes him sound as though he was telling me things he shouldn't have done, and that isn't what I'm trying to convey at all. But I remember when things were going really badly for him, and everyone thought he'd be sacked. I think it was at Christmas time, and they played Stoke at home, maybe about December the 20th. Just
was it
before
when
Christmas.
Rooney got his record-breaking goal? Was it the free
kick?
It
might have been that. I don't know. That clouds over. But I remember standing in the tunnel, and the two teams are coming out. So it was Stoke and Manchester United, and Louis was there. And in front of the players, I sort of said, "Well, good luck today. I hope it goes well. Good luck." And Louis looks at me in front of his own players and says, "Yes, we will need it."
Oh really?
And this is Manchester United at Old Trafford playing Stoke, and you're thinking, no, don't be that honest. It was a dreadful Dutch accent I just did, so I apologise. That wasn't meant to be sort of xenophobic.
I didn't think it was too bad.
Turn around, just like.
But he was random like that, and in the same way, the famous Christmas thing where he mince pie, red wine,
or he gives. Yeah, I remember I think we had a game on Boxing Day, and he was the only manager in the league to give them Christmas Day off.
Yes.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
And again, amazing moments, with the FA Cup and everyone.
That was a nice way to leave it. I think that was a lovely end.
But an awful way that people knew. We came into a press conference that having won the FA Cup for Manchester United, knowing that he hadn't got a job. Now he didn't know at that stage, or if he did, he wasn't telling anyone. And having to go to the hotel the next day, knowing that there was almost a wake rather than a celebration, and that he was very, very upset by it. And we did an interview just outside the steps where I asked him what the situation was, and he said it's over.
Oh,
yeah.
And I then had a war of words with the press people who said, no, he never said that to you, because I was reporting it was over, and that meant it was over. No, he meant the trip to London, or he meant the game. You could see in his eyes exactly what he meant. And what I do think was a pity was that Manchester United got Louis van Gaal 10 years too late.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that happened with a lot of managers, like Jose Mourinho was a little bit past
you're right. Yeah,
as was Louis van Gaal, I think, as well. So it was just annoying. I think maybe David Moyes, even though it kind of suffered a little bit.
But I don't talk about David Moyes. I'm not going to talk. I think that was just all wrong anyway. But
totally.
I just feel it's a shame. Again, like I said, Ollie was betrayed by his own recruitment, and I think. Louis can look at the players that came to play for him at Manchester United and the awful style they played in, and think that isn't sustainable either. So I'm not saying they're all wonderful and the people were wrong to get rid of them. They all had their foibles, but as human beings, Louis was brilliant.
Yeah,
and everyone at Manchester United would back me up on that.
Yeah, I think Wayne Rooney said he was the best manager he'd ever played under because of how much he'd learned under him as well. Because Rooney was obviously coming to the latter stage of his career. I think he left for Everton the year after. Or it was maybe a couple of years after Louis left, but I think Louis you could tell he was so intelligent. He's he's an incredible tactician and reads the game so well and has a brilliant understanding as well. And I think he was so good for Rooney's career.
No, I remember seeing him one of the last times I saw him. It sounds like an awful long time ago, 2017, when they won the last trophy. I've seen him a couple of times since that, but it was in Copenhagen. No, not Copenhagen. Stockholm, wasn't it?
What, the Europa League? Yeah,
Stockholm. Sorry, so I was there, and he was outside, and I went and gave him a big hug.
Is this Rooney or
Van Gaal? And I said something along the lines, "It's just not fun anymore without you." And again, he looked at me and said, "Yes, I know, it's no fun with Jose." And he just, and it was great tribute that he was there anyway, bearing in mind that he would love to have won a trophy other than the FA Cup with Manchester United, and just a really decent, warm sort of bloke, and I've got a lot of time for him.
Yeah,
and also because he was unpredictable in a way that other people were as well. Manchester United are lucky to have these kind of people that are box office in different ways.
Do you have you picked up any relationships with players or managers that you still talk to maybe on a regular basis now?
Yeah, bits and pieces. Yes, some players you do. I think one of the great things that was told to me by one of my friends, a guy called Simon Stone, who works at the BBC, who's a dear friend of mine and somebody who's kind of done the Manchester United beat for as long as I have, if not more.
Really reliable journalist.
Absolutely. Is you get carried away with it because it's Manchester United, and it's I can see the way your eyes you're looking at me and telling these stories. It's a special club. It's a job that other people want to do. So you kind of get swept up with it. And one of the things he said to me is that never think they're your friends.
Oh, really?
And it's an important thing to say that it's a different realm they live in. It's a different world they live in.
Yeah, they're not on planet Earth.
No, they're not.
No, 100% they're not.
You walk into the car park, even at Leicester City, and it's what is this place? It looks like sort 100%. Of Floyd Mayweather's garage. So it's absolutely right. So you have relationships, and it's easier when they're not playing.
Yeah.
So after they've played, I think you're probably close to them and you can be more honest with them. But there are bits and pieces. There are people I get on very well with. But I think that was really, really good advice, and it's good advice to anyone going forward. You can have relationship, but the relationship probably works on their terms rather than yours.
Yeah.
Not mates, but there are guys, that I would like, and I would still be in contact with, but I'm not going to name any names right here on your podcast. Maybe podcast number 2.
That's okay. We'll get you back soon enough. I think a lot of people who are watching this might have recognised either your name or your face for what you've done for Sky Sports reporting, and specifically Sky Sports News as well, because you did a lot for Manchester United on deadline day.
Yeah.
can you talk us through, because deadline day is like Christmas for a football fan.
Yeah,
so
true,
can you talk us through what a normal deadline day is like at Manchester United?
Yeah, I mean, I think one first thing I'll say, the way all your eyes are getting lit up talking about transfer deadline day means that it has got this life to it. You know, and I think it's become an increasingly big part of the media. I think there's a danger perhaps that one organisation thinks that they own it. And I think you have to be very, very careful with that, you know, because I think you now get your information from different places. That's one thing that's changed.
Yeah.
You know, I think 10 years ago, we would have been leading the way. Sky would have been leading the way.
Not the Formula podcast.
And giving all the information out. Now you've got,
Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein.
And people like that are very good. They're not very good at owning their mistakes, I've got to say.
Oh, really?
You know,
How so?
You know, in the sense that if they get something wrong, they just move on to the next. They just move on to the next thing.
And I'm not
delete the tweet.
And I'm not
Fabrizio.
And I'm not pointing or naming names.
I am.
But you're welcome to, and you're probably right. But they're very good at telling you what they've got right. And I think with Fabrizio, what's really interesting is he's kind of diversified away from just transfers.
He's made it like a brand, hasn't he? Like his whole "Here We Go" thing. It's like when you hear "Here We Go," you think of him, and it's like deadline day.
No, but it's not just kind of transfer related now. You hear him do all sorts of things. And I think he's realised he can't kind of live just in January the 31st and September the 30th. You know, I think he's been quite clever the way he's branded himself. I'd say.
He's even done parts away from football now as well, and he's
because I think as well with Fabrizio, he never like locked himself down to a company, so he didn't just join Sky Sports.
He was always his own company.
Yeah, you see him a lot on Sky Sports and on I think a little bit more on American stuff. I know David Ornstein is a little bit with CBS.
David's very good, by the way. I've got to say, David's excellent.
I've heard a lot of good things. One of the guys
is.
in our course, Adam, met David Ornstein, said he was really lovely to talk to.
He's a really, really nice guy, and he works really, really hard, and he's got good relationships.
Yeah, well, I think with David with the Athletic, but Fabrizio isn't out on his own. Like he is just
it's a
he's not tied
thing.
to anyone, which I think makes him, which is I think really smart by him because no one owns him.
No, that's absolutely right. But to answer your original question, which I dodged very nicely by talking about
the transfer
Fabrizio
deadline
and David or whatever, there were days you dreaded if you knew nothing was happening.
Which happened a lot at Manchester United on deadline day.
But no one wants to hear nothing's happening. You know, no one's going to watch me saying nothing's happening. So, you know, are
you almost getting told from the people back at the studios, have you got anything you can talk about?
Drama
we want to
got.
I couldn't possibly comment on that and say those conversations had taken place, but you may well be right. Put it this way, if you had nothing to say, then I tried not to dress it up too much because I didn't want to be telling A, lies, and I'm confident I never went to air and told a lie anyway, but B, I didn't want to be dragging people down a garden path that they were never going to get to the garden.
These are passionate fans, aren't they?
Yeah, you know. And
that slack will fall back on you if you're caught lying.
Yeah, so what you try and do is find something, you know, there would be something going on. Whether it would be a youth team player going out on loan or something like that.
Especially the club like Manchester United, there's always going to be something going on.
Or maybe you'd talk about something happening in the summer more likely than the winter. That was the hard one. The January window is never a good time to do business. And even now, I know Manchester United have done a little bit of business in terms of Weghorst and Sabitzer. But again, you know,
the big business happens in the summer. Though,
in the real world of Manchester United, neither of those players ever play for Manchester United. I'm sorry, but they don't. You know, if that's the August window, and you're looking to win a league title, you're not knocking on their doors.
They're not starters anyway.
No,
they're rotation options.
And I don't think they'll be part of things next season. They may well earn their place by something they do in the next few weeks, but I think it's unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you had nothing to say, then it was awful. It was a long day, and in January it was cold as well. You know, always cold.
Is there a big difference? Sorry, I'll go back to what you were saying in a second. But is there a big difference between a January deadline day and a August or September deadline day?
I think it's warmer, so that makes kind of a difference. But that then brings the weirdos out.
True. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With the greatest respect to all you three weirdos. Things change very quickly because I think it almost. Initially, having fans around you and talking about what was going on at the end of Carrington Lane was quite fun and quite exciting, but then it becomes uncontrollable when A, if you're telling them something they don't want to hear, or B, nothing's happening, or C, maybe they've just had a bit too much to drink and start throwing cans of beer at you, which happened to me a couple of times.
Really? So, how do you deal with that in a professional manner? Is it just...
You just on camera, you have to laugh it off, and then the difficult thing is that you've got generally got your back to it, so you can't see it coming anyway. So
you go home and watch it back.
So the cameraman's ducking because he can see it, and you're just hoping that if he's ducking, I don't get hit.
Yeah. How is it not really off-putting trying to look into a camera on live TV in front of millions knowing that there's a chance you get a can of Heineken lobbed at you in a
I
second.
mean,
does it put you off a little bit?
No, I mean, luckily, touch wood, it didn't happen very much, and I've got to say that generally fans were really good. You know, and another story I would tell is that the Liverpool game that was postponed because of the Super League stuff. That was really dicey. That was a really dicey day because people didn't want anyone perceived to be towing the line of the football club, you know, for various reasons, you know, and so you had to be really, really not careful because that makes you sound as though you were going to toe the line, but you thought better of it. But I think what you have to do is be impartial. You know, when you're going into being broadcasters and communicators, you have to be straight down the middle, especially on days like this. And again, people had been taking things and they've been drinking, and I don't mean the people on Sky. I mean, I mean the fans that are around us, you know, and. We changed where we were, and we went round the back to try and get the Liverpool coach coming in, as it had attempted to, I think, I remember. All the fans moved that way as well, and then they saw the camera, and we were cornered, you know, and luckily a huge Manchester United fan, I don't mean his passion, I mean his size, said, "Hands off, James. He's one of us. Everyone leaves him alone." And I don't know who that was, but I will always be grateful. Just, you know, and generally fans are very positive, and you know, I touch wood, I don't get people saying very nice, very horrible things about me. But that moment was out of control just because the lawlessness of the situation, you know.
Yeah. So I know we don't have that much time left, and I will finish off with this. But I want to finish off with deadline day. Just this final question.
Yeah, go for it.
What's the longest you've ever spent at Carrington on a deadline day?
I think we used to get there at 6 a.m. I can remember leaving at 1 a.m.
Oh, wow!
You know, so that's a long day.
Are you getting paid by the hour?
Not on that day. And again, that would have been something happening. So you may be doing a report on the top of the hour and the half an hour for sports news, maybe at the 20 past the hour for Sky News, and you do get to a stage, I'm afraid, where, you know, people don't want to let you take breaks, and that sounds awful, but I can understand it because you've got news to tell and things are changing and stuff like that. You know, maybe you've got Lukaku coming from Everton, or you've got what's his face? I've forgotten his name now. The guy with Falcao. I was going to say the guy with the dodgy knees, Lego knees.
Knees.
You know, coming down the Carrington Road in his or Berbatov moving across the front of old. So there was generally things moving, but you'd get to the stage at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night where you could almost see the words in your head banging into each other because you were just that tired.
You were there for the past 18, 19, 20 hours.
You know, and then what makes it harder, and you talked about kind of January and August, Thomas, you know, you get to midnight or something and Jim White thinks it's hilarious that you're cold and freezing and not eating anything. And he's got pizza coming out of his ears with the heaters on and gloves in the studio, you know. And for that one window, I put everything on, I think, for midnight that I had in my car. So I had 5 coats on, a hat, scarf, because I was really angry that someone was basically taking the mick.
I'd lose my head.
I'd be annoyed too.
My head would be gone.
But that's where we're going to finish it. I know you've got to run off.
I've enjoyed that.
Yeah,
actually,
thank you very much for coming on. It was a really good insight, and I hope you enjoy it down below. And is there anything you'd like to...
No, I just think it's about, hopefully, we talk about this all the time, don't we, in the classroom, about telling stories, and I think sometimes they're interesting. I hope they have been interesting, but I think you've... there's loads of places to dig and maybe do something else in the future. That was quite good. And don't let him dominate. Let's talk more widely about football rather than just Manchester United. He's pinned his ears to the mast anyway. I still don't think that collar's any good. I know you like it.
I like it.
I love the collar. How do we put it after the win at the weekend?
I just don't think it'll age well. Maybe it looks all right now. I just think it'll look...
Yeah, maybe.
Just, for some reason, it reminds me of Pizza Hut.
I love collars.
I don't know what the hell it is, but it's
I can see it a wee bit. Yeah, I can see it a wee bit. I love collars in a football shirt, though. But thank you very much for James.
No, well, thank you for inviting me, guys. Thank you.
Make sure to check out the socials, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
See ya.
Bye bye.